Good morning. We'll call the Wright County May 16th, 2017 meeting to order, and we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all for coming. We've got a nice crowd here today. We like that. We actually have two sets of minutes, so I'll entertain two separate motions for their dispense with the reading and have them move for approval.
Mr. Chair, I'll move the May 4th local option sales tax public hearing meeting minutes.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Hewsome, second by Commissioner Vetch. You will approve the May 4th, 2017 meetings. That was the Thursday night one that we had. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Then the board minutes for 5/9, last Tuesday.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the May 9th meeting.
I'll second it.
Motion by Commissioner Potter, second by Commissioner Delight. And discussion on that? Okay, seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Review and approve the agenda for today.
If there's no additions, Mr. Chair, I'll move the agenda for today.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Hewsome, second by Commissioner Vetch. Lee, you didn't have anything at all?
No, sir.
Would have heard from you by now, I bet. Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. The consent agenda. Does anyone have anything they would like removed for further consideration?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Delighten, second by Commissioner Potter. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Consent agenda is approved. We are flying through here. 9:02, we're on time. Okay, what we have up is Sheriff Joe Haggerty and Sergeant Ryan Ferguson from the Sheriff's Office. Good morning, Sheriff.
Good morning, Chair, Board, citizens, and employees. This week is National Police Week since 1962. Police have had basically their own week just to honor those in law enforcement, public safety, really. Yesterday, the 15th, May 15th, is National Peace Officers Memorial Day. There's activity down at the Capitol yesterday. Our honor guard wasn't there this year, but for several years we stood in honor of our fallen officers. And in Wright County, we've had 7 fallen officers, the last one, 1980. And every evening we're thankful that that hasn't happened since. Starting out today, I'd certainly like to recognize one of our very longtime members of our organization. Fred, you mind stepping up here? For those of you who don't know Fred, he's kind of a fixture with our office and down in Montrose, Fred Reimer. Okay. And in 1965, Sheriff Darrell Wolf started the Wright County Reserve Unit, which is alive today. Fred, who's also alive today, is an inaugural member, a charter member of that. And in 1965, a couple very interesting things were occurring in Wright County. Vice President Hubert Humphrey was living down in Waverly on the North Shores. From 65 to 69, he served. Very important detail for the sheriff, make sure the vice president is not harmed in Wright County. Fred was part of that detail. Also, we had significantly high water in the spring of 65, and our reserve unit patrolled the dike in Delano and other places just for safety. But the reserves back in 1965, when Darrell started them, they were paid 50 cents an hour, but they never saw any of that money. It went into a fund to supply them with uniforms. They carried firearms back then. Then in 1978, when Post Board came in, state agency that licensed, professionalized this profession, people were issued licenses. Fred was issued a part-time license. The reserves back then and today still help us with all the city celebrations, the parades. Most of the people directing traffic just for safety for our residents and the parade participants are reserve units. 1983, Fred started patrolling the Wright County parks, and he does that up to now, and now he'll be basically retiring. But no small task for sure. He also worked as a dispatcher in our organization. So Fred has Fred has seen it all, but Fred, I'd like to issue you a plaque, and it has our patch on it, and it says, "Presented to Fred Reimer for over 52 years of service to the Wright County Sheriff's Office."
Oh.
I feel like I'm leaving my family. It's been a long time. I've enjoyed this work, and I've always heard it said, if you love your work, you never work a day in your life. And I truly believe that, and this is great and very touching. Thank you. Thank you all.
And Fred, just for somebody that grew up with you in Waverly, we always respected you because you were always a decent and honest police officer, and I said, I remember as a kid, you know, we thought the world of you, so thank you for that, so.
Thank you.
So how many times did you have to chase Charlie down?
Never did. Not too many.
I just thought maybe it was kind of buttering you up to try and keep some of that
Well, let's
quiet.
now talk about his brother Jerry.
Oh, well, we were almost like neighbors on the farm. We
Yeah.
were probably 2 miles apart out in south of Waverly. Out
I
there,
remember
so.
up at all the dances at the village hall, you know, Fred was a fixture there, you know, so it was always nice to have you anyway, and thank you for all your service, years of service. Wow.
Thank you.
Then I'll introduce Sergeant Ryan Ferguson. Ryan and Ms. Hoyne here put this together for us. They put a lot of work into it.
Morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Did we want to
Read the
read the
proclamation
proclamation
first?
first?
Certainly, thank you. The resolution proclaiming May 15th through May 21st, 2017 as Law Enforcement Officers Week in Wright County. Whereas the law enforcement officers of Wright County have worked devotedly and selflessly on behalf of the people of this county and the state of Minnesota, regardless of the peril or hazard to themselves, and whereas these officers have safeguarded the lives and property of their fellow citizens, and whereas, by the enforcement of our laws, these same officers have given our county internal freedom from fear of violence and civil disorder, and whereas 7 Wright County law enforcement officers, including Constable Charles Albert Washburn, this is where I get, Sheriff John C. Nugent Jr., Marshal Rudolph Mauer, Sheriff Paul Kritzik, Sheriff James Kreitlow, Chief George Riddy, and Sheriff Roger Strobel have given the ultimate sacrifice and lost their lives in the line of duty. And whereas these men and women of law enforcement, by their patriotic service and their dedicated efforts, have earned the gratitude of our community, therefore, be it resolved that the Wright County Board of Commissioners formally declares May 15th through the 21st as Law Enforcement Officers Week in Wright County, and publicly salutes the service of law enforcement officers in our community and communities across the nation.
Can you move that resolution?
I will move that resolution.
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Houston, second by Commissioner Lyden, and this is a resolution. Derek, do you want to start off?
Aye.
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 Resolution carries unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right,
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead, Commissioner.
before we move on, this has to do, Ryan and Sheriff Joe. Did the national peace officers ever get Sheriff Kreitlow recognized at the national level yet? Or is that still in the works with Mona?
That's still working. I have all the material. I submitted it once, probably about 6 years ago. We were not successful. I was struggling with finding some documentation as to how exactly, what he was actually doing at the time. I know where it occurred on the north side of Lake Constance. I know what family he was dealing with there. I talked to his spouse out in Gettysburg, South Dakota. We did a lot of work on it, but I will resubmit it.
Please do, because I think it's worthy. That family deserves that respect for their father.
Yep, I agree, and we've been in contact with the family. So we're still trying, because then he'd have his name etched in stone out in Washington, D.C., where our other 7 are recognized. So yeah, it's very important to us, but I'm confident we'll get there. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
And then Lee and Susan, can we, Commissioner Houston just pointed out, in the body of the letter under B4, therefore be it resolved, you can change it to 2017. Okay. Sounds good. Thank you much.
Thank you, Joe.
All right. Next up, auditor, right? Presentation.
Awards.
Oh, we have presentation of sheriff's awards, local enforcement. There we go.
I'm back.
You're still there.
Mr.
You're
Chair,
just being too
apologize.
quiet.
I had a
Yeah,
little
sorry.
sidebar there because I
Usually a problem for me. Today, we'd like to recognize 3 of our employees and 11 citizens for incidents that have taken place over the last year and some change. So I'll start by reading off. Deputy Glenn Garrett's responded to a structure fire in Montrose on February 15th of this year. Upon arrival, he encountered an apartment building with thick and heavy gray smoke coming out of the main door and the windows. After entering the building, Deputy Garrett's located an unconscious female lying outside of her apartment door. Deputy Garrett's picked the woman up and carried her out of the building to a nearby sidewalk where another deputy started then administering oxygen. Deputy Garrett's then began checking the perimeter of the rest of the building, knocking on windows to wake people up and get them out. Garrett's located an elderly male attempting to get out of a window on the backside of the apartment building who was unable to. Deputy Garrett's then bear hugged that individual and carried him out of his window. For those actions, we'd like to recognize Deputy Glenn Garrett's with a commendation award. All right, next I have Deputy Andrew Minia. On November 16th of last year, while on routine patrol, Deputy Minia noticed a restaurant in the city of St. Michael filling with smoke due to an active grease fire. Deputy Minia forced entry through the door of the business and extinguished the fire. After investigating, it was found that the fire suppression system within the business had failed, and Deputy Minia had prevented severe damage or a complete loss of the business. This happened at about 5 o'clock in the morning. So, for those actions, we'd like to present Andrew Minia with a letter of recognition.
He also slipped and fell and had to get stitches.
I left that part out.
I got more. Thank you.
All right. Our next recipient couldn't be with us today, but it's Reserve Deputy George Rowe. He was unable to get a shift off at work, so I'll just read through this and we'll take it back to him and give him to him at another time. Reserve Deputy George Rowe, while working at Walmart, noticed a vehicle in the parking lot that he believed matched the description of a vehicle sought in connection with an active homicide case in Wright County. Rowe remembered the make and model and license plate of the suspect vehicle and contacted Sergeant Brian Johnson. It was then discovered that the vehicle in the lot was in fact the correct vehicle being sought in connection with the homicide. Rowe's recollection of the suspect information and discovery of the vehicle aided in the homicide investigation. So for that action, we are also recognizing Reserve Deputy George Rowe with a letter of recognition. Citizen awards. I have a Citizen Commendation Award and 3 citizen letters of recognition in connection with this incident. On January 19th of this year, Wright County deputies were dispatched to a motor vehicle versus pedestrian crash in the city of Otsego. Further information given, deputies learned that 3 children waiting for a school bus had been struck by a vehicle that had driven through the school bus stop arm. These 3 children were severely injured and transported to Metro hospitals. While waiting for help to arrive, bus passengers Alex Jukowski, Cheyenne Tuttle, Irma Lozano, and Sarah Parent got off of the bus and tended to the victims and provided aid until deputies and other emergency responders arrived. So for those actions, we're recognizing Alex Jukowski with the Citizen Commendation Award and Cheyenne Tuttle, Irma Lozano, and Sarah Parent with the Letter of Recognition. And I believe Sarah and Alex are here today. Cheyenne Tuttle is also here today. Sorry, Cheyenne, I didn't see you back there. All right, this one's from early last year, and I'll have to admit it slipped past me before the last award ceremony, so that's on me. So bear with me here. On January 5th of 2016, deputies were dispatched to the report of a missing 4-year-old child. 3 agencies, along with the Wright County Sheriff's Office, were in search of the child. Ryan Zylstra and Hans Hoag were on their lunch break from work and received the information of the missing child. Being in close proximity to the area, the 2 decided to leave their lunch break and help in the search. Approximately 15 minutes into their search, they saw a dog and a child and yelled for the child by name. The child told Zylstra and Hoag that he was waiting for someone to pick him up. Hoag was able to flag down a passing state trooper, and the child was then safely returned to their mother. So, for these actions, we'd like to recognize Hans Hoag and Ryan Zylstra with Citizen Letters of Recognition.
Joe, stand further out front.
One more time.
Like a fish.
Okay, our next recipient is Jonathan Hudick for a Citizen Letter of Recognition. On January 23rd of this year, Deputy Lundeen from our office made a traffic stop for a minor traffic violation in the city of Montrose. After the vehicle came to a complete stop, the driver exited the vehicle and started to flee Deputy Lundeen. After detaining the passenger, Deputy Lundeen located a male matching the description of the driver that was being detained against a chain-link fence by Jonathan Hudick. Hudick stated he chased the suspect through a backyard before detaining him until the deputy was able to respond back to the area and take him into custody. John's unable to be with us today, but his father, Jim Hudick, former Wright County deputy, is going to accept the award on his behalf.
Chip off the old block. Jim taught me how to catch people.
Yeah.
We don't recommend citizens do this. It's genetics, you can't play it. Thanks.
All right, next up are Marlene Kiddock and Holly Schrupp. On October 15th of 2016, Wright County Dispatch received a call from Kiddock and Schrupp stating they wanted to report a suspicious person. The 2 had noticed an individual sitting on a picnic table watching patrons come and go from a business, possibly drinking alcohol, and had been there for an extended period of time. Upon the deputy's arrival, the individual quickly entered the business, leaving a backpack behind. Marlene Kiddock contacted dispatch for a second time, letting them know the location of the individual. Deputy's investigation resulted in the arrest of that individual for several burglaries and also possession of a stolen handgun. For these actions, we'd like to recognize Marlene Kiddock and Holly Schrupp with letters of recognition. Okay, my last one here. Michael and Peter Sharber. On October 12th of last year, Wright County Dispatch received a call of a capsized boat on Pelican Lake. Upon arrival, deputies learned that 2 victims' boat had started to take on water, in turn making it capsize. The 2 victims started screaming for help, and this was heard by 2 other hunters, Michael and Peter Sharber. Michael grabbed the binoculars to look across the bay and saw the capsized boat and the hunters in the water. The Sharbers immediately responded to the scene and pulled the 2 cold and shivering hunters into the Sharbers' boat, probably saving them from significant hypothermia. For these actions, we'd like to recognize Michael and Peter Sharber with Citizen Commendation Awards.
I want to talk about water safety a second. You know, it's so critical, especially for hunters in the fall of the year, to have adequate boats and also life jackets and to wear them. You know, a few days after this incident happened, we had a good friend that sunk his boat. He floated for 4 hours in the water. Had it been 10 days later, he'd have died of hypothermia. He washed up on the shore with about solar one in the house. Hypothermia was setting in. So I'd like to mention on the water, let your loved ones and friends know, you know, life jackets and have adequate boats out there. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all I have for today. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Okay,
Sergeant.
well, thank you. And that's always one of the more enjoyable things
It
at the
is.
county board, to hear how our deputies and our citizens, Pat Swatsky always said we have the best citizens in Wright County, so thank you all. Okay, now we're up, Mr. Bob Hevel, Auditor Treasurer. Yeah, why don't we'll pause this for a minute. So.
Thank you.
Have fun in St. Paul. Good luck.
We'll pause for a moment to give Bob time to get up to the podium.
Reminds me of being at parades. Following beauty queens, preceding beauty queens.
And then you come along.
Everybody's excited, then no, then excited again. Board, the first item on the agenda is to approve the April budget reports. I handed out to you the 62-page individual general ledger line item budget report, but I also sent you some graphs out of OpenGov. So I want to just show you quick a couple of those reports.
Should we hit some lights?
Pretty zoomed in, but anyways, Wright County adopts balanced budgets. And again, at this point of the year, we're a little bit ahead on expenses.
We're not getting any ledger with it, though.
There you go.
Zoom in. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, that's better. Otherwise, it looked like a pretty colorful screen.
Yeah, okay, thanks. So, board, we're a little bit of ahead of budget on expenditures. March was a three pay period month. We're a little bit ahead on revenues, compared to the prior year. That is due to some of those, and I'm going to point them out, getting some of our county aid for road projects up early, plus some of our boarding of prisoners. Just analyzing those revenues. Again, you can see that property tax is the biggest part of our revenues, but in April we don't have those settlements, so those are always pretty flat. State grants, again, when I saw this, I'm saying there's a story here. How come our state grants are ahead of time, and found out that our state aids for highway were received in April. So that was driving that up. And then our charges for services, in analyzing that, that's our boarding of prisoners that's really driving that bar up. Looking at our expenses, again, we didn't get to choose these colors, but the biggest part of our budget is personnel. Again, this reflected a 3 pay period month, so that's why it's a little bit above. Otherwise, we're right on schedule with relatively to our other expenditures. The board, I'm going to walk you through this a lot deeper, but I just wanted to give you for the month of April a prelude to how we're going to use OpenGov to communicate the budget reports to you.
And Bob, why did you say the expenditures are up a little bit? You said it's looking at a little different time frame?
No,
Oh,
through
same.
April of each year,
Okay.
but we didn't have a third pay period until later last year.
Oh, okay, all right.
So,
Okay.
Would that, 'cause the way I looked at it, we're up about 3 million in expenses. And that wouldn't be all payroll, would it?
no, payroll is about $1.5 million. It was buying some of our squad cars earlier.
Ah,
Okay. All right.
Right here under this capital outlay, we bought some of our squad cars earlier than we did the year before. So, again, my desire is to drill deeper into this for you guys and give you this visual way to look at the budget reports. The board, I'm asking you to approve the April guidelines.
I'll make a motion to approve the April revenue expenditure budget report.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Delight and second by Commissioner Hewsome. Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Were you going to show us anything else on the screen, Bob? Or?
No,
Okay,
commissioners.
we'll brighten it back up here then.
Right.
I would want you falling asleep, Charlie.
Thank you. I'll have to get my sunglasses.
Board, the second item on your agenda was, we were approached from the Planning and Zoning Office. I worked with Greg Kreiser to formulate this response. We have a property, if you remember the Glutnick property, County Ditch 13, we have a redetermination going on there. There's a feedlot south of the Township Road. There's a property just north of that they're looking to develop. They're going to put 6 parcels on there. So they asked if we had any stance on that. So working with Greg, we postured this, that we would allow that zoning as long as you don't impede the ditch. We also communicated with the viewers to let them know this was happening so that they could time this out to accommodate developed land versus the land that it is now.
And
This
this,
is acknowledgement to the letter I sent on your
because
behalf.
Bob, we have responsibility as the Drainage Authority to maintain that ditch as originally constructed and.
Correct.
And so this is just letting them know that that work will have to be done.
Or we can abandon it.
Yeah, unlikely on that though. I mean, it does serve a purpose.
Yeah,
yet,
no,
so.
I agree.
But Commissioner DeLine is right. I mean, that could be a conclusion that if there's no benefits, we could abandon it. But
Okay,
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to authorize the signatures of the county auditor treasurer of the letter of planning and zoning regarding County Ditch 13.
I'll second it.
motion by Commissioner Potter, second by Commissioner Delight. And further discussion? Go ahead.
Just one quick question. Isn't that area, and I'm trying to picture it in my mind, but there's some lower areas or not so much low, but it's pretty flat right across that county road from that feedlot and that lake or pond or whatever you want to
Right,
call
and
it.
it appears like there's wetlands. My understanding is the homeowners have been working with Soil and Water for whatever they can do, and they're getting the blessing there. So we're just responding
Okay.
on behalf of the Ditch Authority.
Yeah. And Mr. Chair,
Yeah,
Bob,
yeah.
any idea of timeframes on this or when we're going to be done with the redetermination or?
Oh, the redetermination?
Yeah.
They haven't begun to start that yet. So my guess would be about a year off.
Okay. So that's going to delay
I,
project, or we don't know for sure?
Commissioner Houston,
Right.
we did contact Ryan Rehnquist. Remember, you did authorize his and his crew to do this.
Right.
They hadn't yet started on this one,
Okay,
so we hit it just at the right time.
okay.
Okay, and then you had an information item, Bob?
We didn't vote. did we?
Didn't vote yet.
Oh, we didn't vote. Oh, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Sorry about that.
Yeah,
And then Bob, you're up.
thank you, Commissioner. The last item is just an informational item that we have to get permission from the state if we're going to extend our hours for the License Bureau. Normally, we are open on Thursday anyways till 6 o'clock. So we got permission to stay open until 8 p.m. on Thursday, June 22nd, to coincide with the county auction.
Okay.
Sounds good. Thank you for that.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, go ahead, Commissioner.
Are you guys going to be out at the highway department, or are you just going to be here?
I believe we're just going to be here.
Are they going to be offering the regular services then? So if somebody showed up at 7:30 and wanted to get a new driver's license, they could do that as well?
Absolutely, yep.
Okay.
And board, as this, I apologize, it's not on my agenda, but there's a time coming up here where all the license bureaus are going to close for a day, and that's when we convert over to this new MNLARs. I'll bring that action item up to you, but just a heads up. We're going to stay late this day, but we're going to close for one day coming up.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you, Bob. Ellen Wilczek. You're up.
Good morning, Board.
Right.
We have, I'm here today to approve a recommendation to move forward with contract development on the EPDM flat roof replacement at Public Works. Last week we had the bid opening, and late last week received the recommendation letter from Inspec, who is working on our behalf as a consultant and design firm for that project. The low bidder that we are recommending move forward with is John A. Dawson and Son. There were 4 bidders in the project. They were low bid, and with selection of their, well, I'll give a quick little recap. The base bid was to leave the conduit on the roof. There's some, if you recall, lighting items and some exhaust and some different things inside the building served by conduit that's on top of the deck, which creates kind of an issue for replacement of the roof. So the project was, base bid was to leave the conduit there, work around it, and replace the roof that way. The alternate 1 was to relocate that conduit inside the building. And then alternate 2 was the price to do a straight replacement, not having to work around the conduit. So the pricing came in, the bid for Johnny Dawson was $442,885 as a base. The deduct of $31,000 if they didn't have to work around the conduit, and then the alternate 1 to move the conduit was $18,424. So all in, the project cost is $430,310. Recommending moving that conduit inside. That's actually a lower cost project for us if we move it inside, and it's a benefit that we never have to deal with it outside again or work around it if we ever have a replacement someday down
Probably
the road.
not the wisest thing to ever put it.
Yeah, so it's kind of a pain. So I would recommend we move forward with contract development with John A. Dawson and Son at the cost of $430,310. So with selection of alternate 1 and 2. Tim Dahl, I spoke with him. We got this stuff over to MCIT late last week, and we're in correspondence with them confirming that this cost is accepted by them as cost of the project. Anticipate no issues. It's selection of the low bid, so I'm not sure what the argument could be, but just notification, heads up that we are working with them to get this confirmed.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the recommendation to move forward with John Dawson and Sons, low bidder on the EPDM roof.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. Ellen, so do you think, I'm looking at the numbers here, the base bid, and then if they did not do the electrical, if they didn't move the conduit at all, it would be $31,000 less than that. That's where you came up with your
No,
430?
so the cost, if you look at the pricing, is $442,885 if they do.
442.
Correct.
Okay.
If they have to work around it, because there's a different
Right.
step. They lay the first level of ISO
Right.
insulation, and then
And if we hire someone else to move it, and they come in and you can take 31,000 off.
Correct.
Okay, so are we, and then the 18,425 is for them to hire an electrician or whatever to move the conduit.
Well, we asked them to work all with the same, or to work with Loberg on that project. They're really familiar with the building. Loberg came out and did the investigation on it, so we've asked that they work with Loberg as a sub to communicate that and with scheduling, working together. So just for straight lining the scheduling and working together, Loberg would be the sub of John A. Delson's son.
Okay, so you came up with the
The 442,885 minus the 31,000 plus 18,425.
Okay, so that would be right, all right.
Yep.
Okay, perfect. All right, any
Sounds
further?
good.
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, Mike.
Alan, I did talk with Brian Jans on this, and he said the whole time with that, when they put the conduit out on the roof, it's been nothing but a pain in the rear for maintenance and everything else they're doing up there. So he was strongly recommending that we put this in the building. So I was gonna definitely go put this in the building at that cost, based on the person that was actually maintaining that building saying what a pain in the rear it was to have up there. And I'm sure at the time they did it was because it was probably the cheapest way to do it. But this is the correct way.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Thank you, Alan.
One quick question, Alan. We don't have the Hail Rider on this. I noticed in addendum 2, it deleted the Hail Rider.
Oh, no, there was a spec, it was written incorrectly in the original spec, so that essentially in spec, in their detail, included a detail that wasn't supposed to be in there. It's covered elsewhere in their spec for coverage. It was on that detail. There was a sentence in there that was incorrect, so it was deleted, but it is covered correctly.
Oh, okay, good.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Virgil Hawkins, our highway engineer. Good morning, Virgil.
Morning, Chairman Burrell and Board of Commissioners. I have 3 items for you this morning to consider. The first of which is to approve an amendment with MnDOT to the agreement we have for the Trunk Highway 55 Coalition, and this amendment extends the agreement an additional 3 years, so it would run through July 26, 2020.
Okay, so entertain a motion for that.
Mr. Chair, I'll make the motion to pass resolution continuing of Highway 55 Coalition, Corridor Coalition.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Potter, second by Commissioner Houston, and that is a resolution.
Yes.
Chair?
Yes.
Just a quick question. This is extending what we currently have?
Yes.
Reasoning?
Well, at the last coalition meeting, it was decided to, because the current agreement would end soon in July of this year, and there's still some money, federal money remaining that we could extend it and keep meeting, and it was decided to do that.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, just for Commissioner Delyden, Virgil was right on that. There was still money left from that federal, and that's why it extended to keep going, and that's why it went that long, because that'll basically run us out of that federal money to that point. And hopefully by 2020,
Yeah.
we can get some movements on this.
Something might happen between now and then.
Right.
Oh, okay. So resolution, Commissioner Potter.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Resolution carries unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you. The next item is to schedule bid openings at our Highway Department for Friday, June 23rd. There's 4 projects we'd like to open bids for that day. The first of which is Highway 3 Federal Pavement Preservation Project from Cokato to the north to Highway 35. And the second is County Road 131 Pavement Preservation in Monticello Township. And the third is the Rickwist safety projects at Highway 35 and 6, 35 and 8. And the fourth project's Briarwood Avenue, Rockford Township, a state park road account. We'd like to get the bids open and then bring those back for consideration of award.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the schedule of bid openings.
I'll second it.
Motion by Commissioner Potter, second by Commissioner Delyden. Further discussion?
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Chair?
Let's do Commissioner Delyden first.
This seems kind of late to be doing these this year. Normally, aren't you way ahead of these?
Yeah, actually, that's a good point, and we are kind of ahead of the game because a couple of these were planned for next year, actually. The 3 federal project was supposed to go next year in our 5-year plan, but with the good bids we had this spring, and we had the plans done, we sent it to MnDOT, so we thought we'd open the bids, and it could be a late season project if the bids come in good. So
Yeah.
we thought we'd,
Oh, so this is above and beyond what we were planning on doing for this year?
correct.
Okay.
He's being proactive.
And then the second one is County Road 131. With the money we saved with the good bids we had earlier this year, this one we have local levy funds available to get this improved. And 131 was dropped a number of years ago
Yeah.
because we didn't have enough money to do it. So we'd like to catch that up, and this is also a potential turn back with Monticello Township.
Yeah, get the work done while the bids are still good.
Yeah, for sure.
And if the bids are higher for some reason, we could not award them and do the, next spring.
Yeah.
Okay, Commissioner Potter.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Virgil, thanks for putting these together. We're fortunate with the bids that came in, and I want to make a point to those people in the western part of Wright County that claim that we don't do anything out there, that look at these projects, some of them are getting done, contrary to public opinion. And like I say, I know Briarwood one was the Park Road account that was advanced because that was such bad shape, something has to get done right now with it, which is nice to get these before they become such a disaster going there forward. And hopefully in the future we can continue to have this success. And thank you for your efforts on all these.
Welcome.
Mr. Chair, quick question.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Briarwood, is that a rebuild then, or just?
Briarwood's a state park road account, and that one, we weren't able to bid it earlier this year because there were some wetland permits to get with that, and that's why it's let later in the year. We would have liked to have let that earlier with our other projects.
But are we going to rebuild it, or what are we doing?
It's a pavement reclamation, but we're replacing a culvert and widening it a little bit where the culvert is.
Okay.
And that's all paid through state park road funds.
Great.
Okay. Further discussion, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. And then you have Burlington Northern. Santa
Thank you.
Fe.
Yeah, this one is in Albertville. There's 2 of our highways there, 19 and 37, that the grade crossings were put in 20 years ago, and they're just at the end of their useful life. We've been getting a lot of complaints. The city's been getting complaints, and so we've been working with Burlington Northern to get an agreement put together, and we have that here. We do have funding available in our highway maintenance budget, so we'd like to get this approved, and they're ready to go with getting it started here with the materials later this month, actually.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the BNSF Railway Agreement for the crossings at 19 and 37.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Potter, second by Commissioner Houston. Further discussion?
Mr. Chair, so is BNSF doing these work, or are we doing the work, or is it a collaboration?
The railroads always do the work for the crossing,
Crossing.
and we'll provide traffic control. We'll provide some paving up to and the other side of the approaches where the crossings are.
And this can be completed by the end of the summer then, is kind of the...
We're hoping they'll start here at the end of May. They have some other work in the area, so that's why we'd like to get this approved.
Yeah, they're currently working on Main Street in Albertville.
Yeah,
because
correct.
that was even a worse shape than 19. So is there only just one, and it's right there on 19?
There's 2 of them.
37
Space
also, by
Aliens
Space
and
Aliens.
19. By Space Aliens, that crossing?
Oh, yes. Okay. I keep forgetting about that one there.
There'll be 2 crossings.
Go ahead, Commissioner Potter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Virgil, I just want to let the board know, and kudos to your staff. Last winter, when the snowplow went over it, one of the flanges by that one on 37, it caught it, and it had a barely substantial piece of flange sitting up in the air, and your crew was out there pretty quick, patrolling it, trying to get a hold of BNSF to do something about it. Nobody could make a decision, so your crew ended up cutting that thing, putting it down so they didn't have to sit there for 24/7 waiting for somebody in Fort Worth to make a decision. And I'm really glad they did that because, people drive by, well, what are the county guys sitting out there for? That's a railroad thing. Well, we're still in charge of the road here. But they took the action, which, they made the calls. They tried to get them to take the action. They didn't take the action. They took the action themselves and took care of that issue. And I want to make sure that the appropriate thanks are out for the crew on their.
Well, thankful, yeah, we're grateful to have Steve Meyer leading the maintenance crew, and we always put public safety first, so we're glad that he did that and took the action he did.
Thank you.
The flange stuck up about 5.5 feet out of the road. It was up, right in the middle of the driving lane. So it was quite dangerous.
Okay, further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you, Virgil.
Thank you.
Next up, Mark Mattice, Parks and Recreation Director.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. We had a Wright County Parks Commission meeting on May 8th, 2017. Out of that meeting came 3 recommendations for your consideration. The first one is to authorize myself to explore and discuss with a willing seller the feasibility of adding additional lands to Stanley Eddy Park Reserve up through the appraisal process. That parcel of land is a single owner. There's 2 parcels actually, and they're owned by the same owner. One is a 55-acre parcel. One is about a 39-acre parcel. It adjoins the south unit of Stanley Eddy Park. A small portion of it is included in the biological survey. Nice piece of property, got some wetlands, got some resources on there. So the county, as you know, the Park Commission, as I receive many phone calls regarding lands for sale, which I administratively turned down because they are not a fit in the system. Last Parks Commission meeting, I brought one to them by Nye Park. They actually recommended turning that down in the exploration. This one came up, obviously another nice fit. Brought it to them, and they are recommending exploration of that, not necessarily purchase at this time.
You don't have a map at all?
That's what I was just going to ask.
I do, but I got it folded over because there's information on there that, landowner names and stuff.
Sit down.
There a button I push?
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead,
Bob. If you were to stand on the highest peak at Stanley Eddy Park and look south-southeast, you'd see that, you'd be staring right at that parcel, if I'm correct on that one, Mark.
Boy, that is not clear at all.
You should be able to,
I can point.
Probably kind of point out.
well, you should be able
The green
to,
parcels are Stanley Eddy Park. This
should be able
is
to scroll it in. Maybe an attorney can come up there and help you.
Yeah, this is the north unit, this is the middle unit, and then this is the south unit here, which is connected by an easement, and I think, ooh, look at here, plus button.
There you go.
Wow. Who said?
It's in technology.
And you did it without an attorney. I'm really impressed.
We got 2 attorneys here, and neither one stood up when you said that, so I'm not so sure. The 2 parcels are highlighted here in red. This is the south unit. There's an easement along here that connects this unit together. That's all considered the south unit. This parcel is all wooded. The biological survey encompasses this area. This is a tillable field. The landowner lives over here. I can't point. And they're looking at downsizing and moving.
Oh, Mark.
Oh, Charlie.
We have an easement that goes through that connects up the properties already. I'm like, why do we want it, I should say, because I know we don't need it, but why do we want it?
Park Commission feels it's a nice fit in that area. It does have some nice resources.
Increase the amount of horse trails possibly in the future.
Horse hiking trails and primitive camping.
I know when we had our hearing about the highway funding and stuff, a lot of the comments were, we don't need to be adding on, let's look at where we can save some money, rather than raising taxes and stuff, so.
Mr. Chair?
should
Mark,
we-
are there,
Back on.
like, building sites on that?
Well,
There
we'll
are no-
get the lights back
I
on
mean,
There are no buildings existing on those
there are
parcels.
none existing right now, but as far as potential,
There could be.
here. Mark, that's one of the properties, that's the 30.
That's both properties.
Oh, they're
highlighted.
both together there.
yeah,
Yeah,
if two,
they adjoin.
a 55 and a 39.
The top part is one, and then the.
I guess, Mr. Chair, as, we hear about increasing our parks, and there's people that are against that, but perhaps exploring this and just finding out what they're asking, if it doesn't take a lot of time or whatever, but I'd be reluctant, I guess, to, even though it's a beautiful property and it adjoins our parks, I would just, given feedback from people, I think I'd be reluctant right now to say, at a different time perhaps, I don't know, but
But I could give you a ballpark, 500,000, give or take, probably add on.
yeah.
That's just a ballpark.
That's more than it's assessed right now.
The Stanley Eddy Park has made it through the first stage of designation process through the Greater Minnesota Regional Parks and Trails Commission.
Okay,
We would need to write a master plan for this park and get that approved through the commission. If that gets approved, that would allow us to apply for acquisition funding. That's a process. So some of the conversation would be is timeliness, what the landowner is looking to sell. If he's looking to sell within the next year, it's a moot point. There's no sense going any further because we're a year and a half out to applying even for funding because the next funding cycle is September. By the time we do a master plan for the park and develop that and get that approved, if we're approved by the end of the year, we're lucky. So we're looking at applying even if there is funding available in next September of 18, which is all the way out to almost July of 19 before you could even make a purchase. Because I know we're never gonna, and I would never suggest coming up with all county funds to purchase the property.
Mark, how many acres is Stanley Eddy Park now? altogether?
879.
How much?
879.
And do we have easements, like, from the main
We
property?
do not have easements from the south to the north, no.
We don't?
No.
So, that would be,
That's cool, that'd be awesome.
if you were coming to me and that was a scenario, I would say, yeah. But this here, when we do have an easement going across, what is that property on the east there?
It's 181 acres.
181.
With 12
Gosh,
interconnected wetlands.
I mean, I appreciate it, Mark, but that's a lot of area to ride horses already. Is this mostly a park set up for riding horses then, or?
Horses and hiking, cross-country skiing,
Okay.
and primitive camping.
Yeah, I'm with Commissioner Houston, I guess. I don't have a problem getting a price, but, but I think I'd be leaning against it. I don't know. Derek, what's your feeling?
I think getting a price is, it's at least worth seeing what the dollars is, because then at that point you can have an idea of what you think maybe there would be out there for grant funding, and then in the meantime you can find out what their time schedule is, because like you said, if they're looking to get this done quick, but it's a mute subject.
and that's it. I mean, if it's not very time intensive for you, that's the other thing. I mean, it sounds like it might be, but if we know a ballpark figure, that might help.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead, Commissioner Deline.
I think it's worth having a discussion. Again, we don't know what people are asking.
Right.
They may be willing to sell one, donate the other, depending on their tax
Why not?
situation and all that sort of stuff. It never hurts to talk to somebody, and like Mark said, he doesn't want to pay for this either with levy dollars.
Right.
So the only way it really, and I'm not going to pay for it with levy dollars, a large amount. And, so if it's at least worth talking to them, and we'll know right away whether or not, if they're in a hurry, it ain't gonna happen.
Yeah.
So I can't go through all that process and then come to you guys after that fact, so that's why I come today.
Yeah.
Commissioner Potter.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Based on the feedback we've gotten last month by the public in reference to Parkland and how much we've got here, and they made it really clear, in my opinion, what their sentiment was. I'm going to make a motion to deny authorizing exploring this just because the public that I've represented it have made it real clear to us that they think enough's enough here. I understand it seems like a good fitness, but we need to actually show the constituents that we're listening to them once in a while. So with that is a motion to deny authorization to explore this.
Okay, and Commissioner Potter, even though you may not get a second on this because I think people want to get information, I'm actually would lean more toward Commissioner Potter's thinking because I don't think it's going to matter the cost or anything. I think my vote would still be the same, and that would be to deny it. Based on, it's just every time we add land, it adds more expense, for upkeep. I mean, Mark, what do you estimate right now that we spend for maintenance and for keeping Stanley Eddy going? You must have a ballpark number.
I'd have an exact number if I had
No,
my
but a
computer with
ballpark.
me, but I'm looking at probably $8,000 a year.
8,000?
Stanley Eddy's one of our.
It's lower cost one then too. Okay.
It's not like one of our main set.
That
six.
surprises me on the low side. But then when you add another, 100 a little over, well, close to 100 acres more, it's going to add something. You're going to have some development costs out there, and
Yep.
and maybe, what Commissioner Delyden said. Maybe you get a bunch of grant money or something from the state, and this is only going to cost us a couple $100 more. I don't know, Mike. I appreciate that motion. Is there a second? I guess.
No, Mr. Chair, can I make a second motion to at least?
Well, we have a motion on the
Oh,
floor
yeah,
though.
sorry.
So, is there a
I'm going
second?
to call 3 times on this.
Is there a second to the motion? Second to the motion. Is there a second? That will die for lack of a second. Commissioner Vetch.
Make a motion then to authorize the Parks Director to explore and discuss with the willingness of the seller and the feasibility of adding lands to Stanley Eddy Park Reserve. I just think it's at least open the door on it. It may be a mute subject down the road, but I guess provided, Mark, you feel like you're not going to lose work elsewhere doing this.
It could be a very short conversation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or they could say, yes, we're willing to wait through that process. And then I'd order an appraisal, which doesn't take much. I mean,
Okay, so Commissioner Vetch made a motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Vetch, second by Commissioner Delyden. I do have a question. Like you said, you would not pay for this with levy dollars, Mark. How would you?
Well, totally. I mean, unless we would get some funding from the state through legacy funding or something like that, where it would only cost us maybe 10%. But again, it would depend on the amount.
Okay.
That would
So
come in.
even
And then, to pay for that with 10%, something else would have to get cut in the parks or something.
so if you had to put odds out there, it's going to be unlikely even that you would be on board on this. It would have to. So the stars would have to align.
Yeah, the stars would definitely have to align. And Mark's really good at aligning the stars. I don't know if he, he's a horseback rider, so he might corral them in, he might be good at doing a little doggy and hog tie him and stuff.
And I guess, Mr. Chair, would be curious too, what we're getting for property taxes on that property now. And, when we get in lieu of taxes, it's, usually not the same, so
We don't
I'd be
get
curious.
anything.
we don't get any payment. in
Oh, yeah,
lieu on
property,
the
right,
property.
yeah,
Because it's our property.
right. It's our
Mark, will
property.
you do a favor? If you do this and like you say, Mike, Commissioner's side, you get the stars to align that you feel anyway, maybe we bring this back to a committee of the whole, a Parks Committee of the whole. Would that be acceptable, Lee?
We could.
And then we can, because really, I think at some point, we need to have a philosophy communicated to, to the Parks commission and stuff too, where the board's at, where we're comfortable and stuff, so.
Well, I think Mark did allude to it, is that they understand the board's appetite for additional parkland, and Mark has turned down a lot of different places. The only,
The only parkland they even consider is if it's adjacent to an existing facility.
Yeah, but.
And then that additional land would have to make sense.
But I guess my point, that doesn't really narrow it down a whole lot.
Oh, it does. Trust me, there's been quite a few that the park board has turned down.
Okay.
I just don't think it hurts for us to get a number. Yeah,
Okay.
The park commission would tell you if this 20 acres in the middle came for sale, they'd want to buy it tomorrow.
Yep.
But this one, they him and hawed. They said, let's see what the price is, see if they can wait, see if we can get grant funds. This one they'd fight tooth and nail over. A connection from here to there, they'd fight tooth and nail over. This one,
I actually, if there was an easement, even, that you could get to the one to the north, yeah, that would totally make sense there,
Or even the one in the middle.
but a little
You gotta ride
miscommunication,
around
little
something.
misconception with the
Right,
public
around
hearing on the open sales tax. If you took $4 million from the Parks Department every year to give to highway, you'd still be short $3 million. We don't have our budget's not that big, so a little
We got that.
misconception with maybe
Yeah.
out there what
We
we
got that.
operate with.
And Mark, it's just, I think the message that I hear, and not just at the meeting on Thursday night, but they want government to be leaner and do
Completely
more
understand
things
that.
that we have to do and not so many things that we want to do and whatever, so. Okay,
We understand that.
Yeah.
we got it. So, is there further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, I could go either one on this, Mike. I'm not leaving you hanging, but I think the outcome will be the same. So
Vote is your vote.
It'll be 4-1. 4-1, Commissioner Potter on the negative.
And I commend Commissioner Potter for standing his ground.
Yeah, that's good.
I agree as well.
Okay,
Heat on this and everybody.
And I'll get you in the back.
Mark,
later.
you have another?
Item number 2 is to authorize myself to enter into agreement with SEH Consultants for development of the master planning and construction documents for Collinwood Regional Park, and approve the additional funds out of the campground fund to offset the expenses. In the CIP program, we have a large project at Collinwood Park identified, expansion of the campground, improvements to the access road, parking, and the whole 9 yards. So working with SEH Consultants, we did an RFP. We had invited RFP. Parks Commission reviewed both of those and is recommending approval to SEH Consultants. We have the money budgeted in the CIP. There is an $8,500 discrepancy that we would recommend getting approved out of the Campground Improvement Fund, which is a fund charged to the users of the campground.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve this.
Motion by Commissioner Hewsome,
I'll second it.
second by Commissioner Delight. Discussion?
Mark, or Mr. Chair, Mark, so was it just the 8,500 was over the additional estimated, what, 50,000?
Yep.
Just because we just guessed really low, or just, I'm just curious what the kind of,
I
the
guessed
plans
low.
changed?
I
You
guessed
guessed low.
You budgeted low.
Right.
Okay. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-1. And the next one up, now I know I'm gonna have discussion on this one. Go ahead, Mark.
At Schroeder Park, one of the goals in the strategic plan was to upgrade some sites to 50 amp service. We've worked in with an electrician on the process. There's 4 different options. One is do nothing, keep everything at 30 amp. One was to take 11 sites randomly throughout the park at a cost of, what was it, $5,750 and upgrade those to 50 amp service.
Is
and
that
they'd be
for the total? 11 total would be?
11 total sites.
Would be 5,700.
Yep, The other option was third option is to take all of Loop 3, which is kind of our bigger sites, kind of wraps around our seasonals. It'd all be lumped in. There's 18 sites in Loop 3. Upgrade those 18 sites to the 50 amp service, and that costs $13,650. Or to do the entire park, which is cost prohibitive, and our Parks Commission doesn't even want to deal with it.
How about, tell me about the space at Schroeder. Is there more space to add campsites?
No, Schroeder is completely
Okay.
built out.
Because my thing would be if it's at Collinwood,
Collinwood.
leave the ones that are at 30 for now, because there's still a lot of campers that have 30.
Yep.
And add on, because we need more, we're short on campsites, we are.
That was our discussion at Schroeder, you know, leaving sites. So the 18 would service those sites and be able to provide that 50 an option. And these would be the larger sites in the park. Schroeder Park is a 30-acre park that's
not real big.
It's developed. I mean, it's
And it's
wall to
busy
wall.
there. I mean, it's full.
Yeah. And they recommend that this would you know, we say identify funding source and timing. The funding source, we would fully suspect would come out of the Campground Improvement Fund.
That's where it should come from,
Yeah.
I think. in
That's
this
where it should
situation.
come from for a
Yep.
project of this magnitude. Now, if you're replacing a whole comfort station, you never, that's gonna be
Mr.
tough.
Chair, so when a lot of campgrounds, when I go out there, when you go from a 30 to 50 amp, the fee schedule goes up, then you charge more. So I assume that would be the same will
That
take
was
place in this.
discussion as well, yep.
And that would probably be a way to backfill a lot of the 57 or 6,000 or whatever dollar amount there over a period of time. I mean, if you increase the fee schedule with going from 30 to 50.
If you increase the fee schedule, that would offset the general levy. Unless you actually increase the fee schedule and took a part of that fee and put those sites into the Campground Improvement Fund
We
as
pay
well.
for it.
So, I have
Right
another,
now, it's paid for by the campers.
Yeah.
I have another question then.
The
too.
timing question would be, would you want to do it this fall so it's ready for next year, or would you want to wait until next year to do it? Have that talked to.
When you do, whichever option we take to do the upgrade some of the sites to 50, will it have a 30 amp plug there as well?
Yep, 30, 50, and
And the 110?
110.
Okay, so you won't be taking the 30 away? Okay. And Mark, what did you guys come up with? What's,
The recommendation from the Park Commission is to approve the 18 sites, so Loop 3, from 30 to 50 amp service, which is 18 sites. It's the bigger sites. It's all in one loop.
Mr. Chair, I'll make
Satisfies
a
our
motion to
seasonals.
approve the upgrading of the 18 sites at Schrader Park from 30 to 50 amp.
I'll second that.
motion by Commissioner Potter, second by Commissioner Hewsome. Further
Do you include in
discussion?
your motion the Campground Improvement Fund and a timing suggestion, sir?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Timing suggestion?
Well, if you want me to start doing specs and get that ready to go this fall when the campground closes, or you want me to wait till next
Do we have the
spring?
funds in the
Yeah.
park dedication fund?
Yeah.
Why don't we leave
Then
that
I
up,
would-
leave it up to you?
Yeah, leave it up to the park
Yeah.
director to determine that one.
Yep.
I mean, whether.
That way,
whether
when the
we-
complaints come in, you handle it.
You never know with weather and all that.
Weather's bad.
You be prepared, whatever.
So when this is complete, then we'll have that discussion about the fee schedule and maybe making a modification to that then?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Vetch, every fall, we'll bring in a fee schedule
Yeah.
from the Park Commission. It won't take place till after the campground closes. It would be enacted in 2018.
Okay. Sounds good. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous.
Thank you, and have a great day.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Mark.
Committee minutes, Ways and Means from May 10th. Commissioner Houston.
All right.
We'll do that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Ways and Means Committee met on May 10th, 2017. Members present, Burrell, Hewsome, and Kelly. Others present, Asselson, Kreiser, Riley, Stevens, and Luke Johnson from the Soil and Water Conservation District. And the discussion was on the delegation of Wetlands Conservation Act. And Riley had contacted several counties to inquire how they administer the Wetlands Conservation Act. And of the counties contacted, 1/3 indicated that the county administered the WCA, while 2/3 delegated this responsibility to the local Soil and Water Conservation District. The Board of Soil and Water Resources, Bowser, is tasked with the oversight of wetland conservation, as outlined in Chapter 8420 of the Minnesota Administrative Rules. Riley suggested the BWSR Bowser could be consulted regarding the county's options in administering the WCA. The Burrell requested to meet with the Soil and Water District Board for further discussion, and they had some new members and thought the county Burrell thought the county could provide some direction. So Johnson was requested to arrange a meeting, and the recommendation is to schedule a meeting with the Soil and Water Board to discuss the Wetlands Conservation Act.
Okay.
And with that, Mr. Chair, I'll move the minutes and the recommendation.
Okay.
I'll second that question.
Go ahead. Yeah, motion by Commissioner Houston, second by Commissioner Deline. Go ahead.
I thought they only had, didn't they just have one new member?
Yes.
Well, the other one is pretty recent,
Well,
right? Or-
Yeah, kind of was on the board and then back on,
Okay.
whatever, so. But the bottom line is, we just thought we're gonna try to see if we can't come to some philosophical agreement. And because right now, some of the decisions that they've come up with and have been a little bit concerning to me, I guess, as a county board member that sits there, so.
Well, before we would have this meeting, I would like to have.
Well, it was just gonna be with Ways and Means. It would be with Chris and I and their board. Or unless you want to change it and have a joint meeting somehow.
So the Ways and Means are going to meet with their
With
whole
their
board?
Yeah, yeah. So it'd just be a committee meeting, yeah, but have their board there.
Do you think eventually they'll end up having to have a whole board?
Well, we don't know. Well,
Meeting to a board?
we have to see. Mark, we've had this discussion. I know Commissioner Sawatsky and I met, but we have not ever met with their whole board and kind of, shared philosophies a little bit, and that's
Well,
what I
if
think.
you're going to share philosophies, wouldn't you be better off having the whole board doing it instead of just a committee?
You could. That's, I would be open to that too. So.
I don't know, to me, it seemed like
It might be a wasted meeting.
if you just do a
Just the two
committee,
of us?
Because it might come to where we have to have the whole board later. I don't know, there was a step that we thought we'd take, so. But I'm not opposed to it either way, I guess.
And I don't know enough info about this stuff. I'd have to do a lot of research to figure out.
But I think, anyway, I just think it has a possibility of working, rather than just going and where, as far as just removing the wetland conservation from soil water and bringing it back to the county. This is a step, I think, that maybe we could take, that would be short of that.
Because, Mr. Chair, so if we brought it back to the county, where would it go anyways? I mean, we have no place.
Yeah.
I mean,
Derek, 1/3 of the counties already do their own.
yeah, but
wetland
we would have to create that whole,
It's-
internally, we don't have it.
Yes, but it's not all that much. It's a person in planning and zoning
Oh,
that would
yeah.
handle it. It's not a nightmarish thing.
No. And I guess the biggest thing is what are we gonna end up having to kick to Soil and Water to do it that way? I mean, that's kind of the apples to apples comparison,
Yeah,
And there's funding associated with this.
Yeah, there is.
Isn't there?
yeah.
And right now it's pass-through dollars?
Yes.
Correct, yes.
So basically it's a matter of we wanted to keep it on it.
Yeah. And Derek, I've never had a conversation with you, and maybe I will do that sometime, but there's some reasoning behind this that I started this action entirely.
Mr. Chair,
Go
I
ahead.
do have and for Commissioner Deline and Commissioner Vetch, there's been a fairly long history with soil and water taking the wetland conservation law and actually putting their own spin on it versus what the law is. And I do have experience in this on my own property with this. And time again, I know that Commissioner Swatsky and Commissioner Burrell did go out and talk to them about the concerns of citizens and everything else. And they say, yeah, we'll work on it, and then they write back the same old thing. So I do share Commissioner Burrell's concerns that soil and water needs to know that, we're supposed to work with the people. We don't want them to violate the law, but there are ways you can work with the people, and sometimes I think they lose that message. Because by the people, for the people.
Yep. So anyway, it's just you know, like I said, this was, I think, something that Commissioner Hewsom and I felt, I think I can speak for you, that this was a good first step in this process.
Yeah, to try to create some dialogue with them and to kind of see where they're at, and if that's something like that we,
If we need to bring it to the whole board later, I guess we could.
unless you'd rather just meet with the whole board, that we could have a.
I just think this is
committee of the whole.
I think this is
Okay.
a good step, so.
I'll leave it up to you two.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate that. All right, no further discussion, all in favor say, passing the minutes and recommendations, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries, thank you all. And advisory, we have a resolution designating the week of May 21st to the 27th as Emergency Medical Services Week. Does Commissioner Hewsom have anything to do with this?
Thank you. I am on the Central Minnesota Emergency Medical Service Board, as well as the local Emergency Medical Services. And would you like me to read the resolution,
Yes, go
or someone else?
You're on a roll today.
Oh, boy.
Yes.
If only my voice would cooperate. This is a resolution to designate the week of May 21st through May 27th, 2017 as Emergency Medical Services Week. Whereas EMS is a vital public service, and whereas the members of the 237 EMS teams in Central Minnesota EMS region are ready to provide life-saving care to those in need 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and whereas access to quality emergency care dramatically improves the survival and recovery rate of those who experience sudden illness or injury, and whereas EMS system consists of first responders, emergency medical technicians, paramedics, emergency medical dispatchers, firefighters, police officers, educators, emergency department personnel. And whereas the members of the EMS teams, whether career or volunteer, engage in thousands of hours of specialized training and continuing education to enhance their life-saving skills, and whereas our communities benefit daily from the knowledge and skills of these highly trained and dedicated individuals, and whereas it is appropriate to recognize the value and the accomplishments of EMS providers by designating Emergency Medical Services Week. Now, therefore, Wright County, in recognition of this event, do hereby proclaim the week of May 21st to May 27th, 2017 as Emergency Medical Services Week. Mr. Chair, I will move the resolution and proclamation.
I'll second it.
Motion.
Provided that the chair reads the last sentence.
Okay,
Okay,
I will do that.
all right.
With the theme EMS Strong, Always in Service, I encourage the community to observe this week with appropriate programs, ceremonies, and activities. And I'll leave you in charge of what those ceremonies are going to be, Commissioner Delight. Okay, motion and a second. This is a resolution, and Commissioner Hewsom, you get to start it
Aye.
off. I vote aye as well.
Aye.
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 Okay, resolution carries unanimous. Next up, advisory committee, advisory boards. Does anyone want to start off?
I'll start off again, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Commissioner Potter.
Last Thursday, I went to a Safe Schools meeting, the last one of the school year in STMA School District, and it was talking about mental health issues and suicide issues amongst we've seen a little spike again. They're trying to implement more programs to help people cope, more mental health options out there, which I think it's, and I explored with them that at the AMC meetings with the board of directors, this is the #1 concern for all 87 counties. Had this as the #1 concern is the mental health issues, the breakdowns in the last weekly. There's other things that go there, but are consistent across their mental health were the issues. And they're trying to deal with this, and they're trying to get a handle on it and try to offer enough services and intervention early enough before it turns into a dire situation where nobody wants to go there. So it was a as always, STMA's Safe School program is fairly well advanced compared to some districts. Other districts are doing fine also. We're trying to keep Rockford in the loop, and they're having a little tough time getting traction, but they are still trucking along. the concern in Rockford schools is because you got a Hennepin County in there that does not seem to be engaged in this. Our side of the river is doing fine, their side is kind of stumbling. I keep Commissioner Johnson and others involved as much as I can with phone calls and emails to let them know what's going on, but yet I haven't seen them there. Next item is the I-94 coalition that was basically getting ready and telling us what we kind of already know with the legislature. They'll be down to the wire again, even though they had more time. I don't really see any miracles of magic in funding in the horizon here. Always hold out hope, but keep in mind this is a budget year, and they haven't even gotten that straightened. The governor vetoed 5 bills last Friday. This morning he said he has a willingness to talk to them, but he has nothing to lose by holding his ground on this one. And as far as the bonding that was supposed to occur last year, that still is kind of sitting in the wings until this budget gets done. I don't anticipate them getting done by next Tuesday, the way they're going at it, unless some miracle of camaraderie appears, which it doesn't seem to be the case. So it's just basically it's another one of those hurry up and wait modes. And Commissioner Houston, did you want to do the state of the cities?
No, you go ahead.
Okay, thank
Yeah,
you very much.
you're one of the speakers.
Yes. On Thursday, also, we had the Wright County Economic Development Partnership had hosted a State of the Cities at WECO's up in Buffalo here. And the cities of Albertville, Delano, Hanover, Montrose, Otsego, St. Michael, Clearwater, Howard Lake, Maple Lake, Monticello, and South Haven. Waverly tentative, they didn't get there. Their people were there, the speakers. I spoke on behalf of the city of Albertville because Adam Nafstead was unavailable at that time, and kept him quite entertained with what was going on with that. As the common theme over in Albertville and St. Michael is Zachman. So we're having, and it was basically telling what's going on in your city, development, some housing projections, and what's going on, some capital improvements, some things going on. Very interesting to see what's going on, and even though all our cities are different, they do have a lot of similarities on what they're looking for in that. A lot of them are revisiting the land use plan, and I had handed out to quite a few of them the property value breakdown for the different classes, like I sent all to the rest of the commissioners here. And so if any ones I missed, you can send them out to your respective cities. It's a good tool for them to see where they're at and where they might need to change things a little bit, and then they see where their peer cities are in this. I know that development coordinator Mark Weigel from St. Michael was real appreciative to get that information because it kind of helps when you're making decisions down the road. Interesting one, when you see the different towns with the businesses that have come in, some of them are kind of surprising. That little things that have happened and how we're trying to develop not only the businesses here, but recruit there. I know in Otsego, their industrial park on 101 is full and they're looking for additional land to create more because they've been fairly successful, and that has to do with the state making a major investment in Highway 101. Helped that corridor because prior to that, nobody was looking up that alley at all. And similar things when we did 94 from Rogers to St. Michael had the same value as going, investments come when you make those improvements, investments come our way. And that's why we keep down the 94 coalition and that, keep that going. All in all, it was sponsored by Bolton and Menck, and I want to personally thank them for this because it's an undertaking that they sponsor this thing. And it's just a good networking. You get to see people and you get to see them in a happy mode where they're happy to discuss what's going on in their town.
Yeah, it was good, very good.
That's all I have,
Sure.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Houston.
All right, thank
Or
you.
whatever.
I went to the crime lab funding formula meeting last Tuesday, along with Assistant County Attorney Brian Asselson and Sheriff Hozempa. There was from Anoka,
Sheriff
Sherburne.
Hozempa?
The second time I've done that. Why I do that, I don't know. I go with the H and I go on. And Haggerty, yeah, no, Sheriff Hozempa was not there. And there was a sheriff from Anoka and Sherburne, a commissioner from Anoka and Sherburne, and there was also from, in addition to our attorney, there was, Sherburne had their county attorney, and Anoka had their financial officer, and our Scott Ford, the director of the crime lab, had prepared a lot of information for us as far as different
Usage.
formulas and that kind of thing. And we looked at the current formula, the population / crimes / officers formula, in other words, factoring in Part 1 and Part 2 crimes and how many licensed officers there are, and also the weighted formula, and we're looking at the 60-40, 60% population, 40% usage. And we had a lot of discussion, and we, at the end, agreed to bring in, right now, Anoka County is paying for one of the latent prints scientists. So we're looking at bringing in that scientist, for the whole, for all of us to be paying per part of that person's salary. And we agreed to go with the 60-40 formula, bringing in that scientist. And we have to get all the details together. The attorneys will be writing up an agreement. We're looking at a 5-year contract. And so before it comes before the board as a formal action, but just to let you know that's where we're at. And I was at Safe Communities. Actually on Thursday, after the State of the Cities, I went to drug court just to observe, and there was a lot of people there actually that were
found guilty.
I know. And it was if you get a chance, go and sit in there. It's great to hear these success stories. And one person had a little, she didn't do one of the things that she was ordered to do, so she had to explain that. But a couple of the people that had crossed milestones of sobriety, and they got to pick an extra little thing out of the goodie bag. And yeah, to get up and to talk, and the intense meetings and things that they're involved with, I think it's just, they really feel supported, so it's a good thing. And then the last is I went to Safe Communities of Wright County on Friday. When we got there, there was 48 orange cones kind of in this triangle. Okay, what's going on? Well, it was to represent the 48 people who have died in traffic crashes in the last 10 years that were not wearing seat belts. Mm-hmm. And they estimate that at least half of people who are wearing seat belts will not die in a crash. So then we had to all go out and have our picture taken with these 48 cones. But and some of the things the distracted driving campaign, they're continuing to do presentations in the community, that Just Drive campaign. The May statewide campaign, Click It or Ticket, the seatbelt enforcement is from May 22nd to June 4th, so there'll be more officers on the road. And also they've done some mock crashes. Buffalo and Howard Lake, Waverly Winstead had both events, and I missed the third one. I apologize, and I was going to ask and I didn't. But like Buffalo had 900 students participating, so there's just it's very meaningful. They showed pictures, and I mean they look so real, and it's kind of also pretty impressive when a helicopter lands and takes, significant for these kids. They also passed out, and I brought a bunch to put on the counter in the courthouse here about the Buckle Up Kids, and it's just a guide for choosing the right seatbelt restraints. So if you need one, please pick it up. And just a little reminder that we're going to have both the Wright County Highway Department and the Sheriff's Department are going to have their open house on Friday, June 9th from 9 to noon. So mark your calendars, lots of things going on that day.
Commissioner Houston, also the Public Works, the surveyors, parks, and
Oh,
extension also
yes.
are included.
Yep, thank you. I
Okay.
didn't have
And
that on here, but,
that it?
yep.
Okay, and then yesterday, I had to leave that meeting a little early, but I had scheduled with one of the Fair Board members, and we went up to Litchfield to view their 4-H food building where they serve up meals. And comparing it to ours, I guess what kind of got us going on this, actually Commissioner Potter and I ended up at the food stand, was it last year? About the same time, and the building is so small, it was so cramped and hot and everything. So we said, somebody said Litchfield has the model up there. So we went up and looked at it, and very nice, one of the Fair Board members met us there, and their food manager also came up from Hutchinson to meet us and showed us not only the building, but how they serve. And she said it is just a flow. It goes right through. And but anyway, our building, I don't know the size exactly, but it's probably about 30 by 50, something in there. Their building is 50. Their building is 50 by 80.
Okay.
So probably over twice as big. And anyway, after talking with them and stuff, it's just something I just want to put it on the radar screen. This will come back to the Fair Board and be looking at different options and things. But there's another building to the east of the food stand that's also a very old building at the fair, and both of these buildings are very old. I'd probably go back to the World War II times. I'm not sure. Somebody said that.
Yeah, I think that's where they held some of the
prisoners. They said
yeah.
they were there yet at that time. but maybe there might be an idea of taking these two buildings down, having the food stand on part of it and the 4-H exhibit. So we'd have 4-H all in the same building, and then we can use the 4-H exhibit building for something else. So it's just, we have a lot of things to talk about, but I just want to put it on the radar screen. So that's it. Unless somebody had a comment.
Last Tuesday, after a board meeting in the afternoon, I had a mental health task force meeting. They've got a number of different things out there on their Facebook page and that sort of stuff. It's, again, trying to eliminate the stigma of mental health issues, make it okay to talk about it. And I did talk about you, Charlie, the whole meeting, so just so that you know, it's, I'm getting it out there for you. Wright County Community Action was Tuesday evening, and Wright County Community Action does a lot of different things. One of the things they are trying to focus on is eliminating duplication of services and trying to find fits that work the best. Agree with that, Charlie?
Yep. Because we have, Wright County Community Action is great in that they have this core, that management-like team that can take on a lot of things without adding a lot of extra cost, because the overhead, that, like I said, that core management is already there. So.
And some of the employees gave Charlie a candy bar, which he likes. So
yes.
He plans on going back again next month.
Yes, and the board chair gave me his too because
he's diabetic. So am I, but I kept mine.
I noticed that.
Bertram, I'll leave that to Mr. Commissioner Vetch to discuss. I met with IT management and county coordinator last Friday, kind of as a follow-up with our Infotech meeting. The deliverables just hit my mailbox this morning. There are 8 different documents, so it's going to take some time to go through all of them. But one of the discussions I had with IT last Friday was to look at the best way to eliminate the logjam and what projects we can hire out, or if we need to do an internal or a temp person that works for the county, or, so they're looking at the different projects that are out there and what's the best way to unlog them, where to blow it up or whatever, the log jam.
So Commissioner Dolan, are we still on task to want to be able to do something about that position for July, considering the slight changes that we've had in here? Are we?
We can continue to move forward. Whether or not we can get the points assigned to the person, the job description written, a lot of it depends on Lee and whether or not he's willing to work nights to give up his band and his recording contracts and that sort of stuff, his studio time. A lot of it depends on that.
I think Lee puts in a lot of hours already, so I don't know
He
how much
does.
more you can expect of him.
No, I can't expect any more from him. He does a good job. Just gotta give him a hard time.
Right?
I forgot the foster care.
All right. So, well, last Thursday, May 11th, myself and Commissioner Hewson went to the foster care banquet, which was wonderful. I got to meet a lot of great providers. It was neat getting to have conversations with them and get a real good understanding of what they do for us as a county. Pretty amazing. Hats off to them.
Yep.
After that, on Friday, May 12th, we had our Bertram Advisory Committee. Discussed a variety of different items. Discussed the update of the picnic shelter that Lyman Post and Beam will be constructing this summer. We also kind of reviewed the updated plans for the beach house with the modifications that were made. That's moving forward. Also, we discussed an unforeseen issue with parking. People are getting creative on where they want to park. They like to think that they can park wherever they want. So we've had Mark and his crew went up there and roped off all the sides of the roads and trying to keep people out of the grass areas.
Yeah, well, the reason that the parking has become an issue is that the active area, City of Monticello, last year seeded a bunch of it, flattened it out. And there's, God, I don't know how many soccer and
I think
lacrosse
there's
fields
like
out
6 soccer fields and like 3 lacrosse
Is that
fields.
what it is?
Something like that.
There's a lot out there. So when they're having those things, there are a lot of cars out there. So they filled up both the overflow parking that Monticello built and also all the parking that Wright County has, which
So is the
a concern.
parking inadequate then?
They're working on it.
For the short term, once the city does their next phase has, their first phase has a huge amount of parking in part of it. So this is a short-term issue that'll hopefully fix itself between 2018, 2019.
They recognize it.
They recognize it.
But yeah, build it and they will come, I guess.
Yeah.
That was a pretty good example of it. It's really been busy out
Yes.
there with that part of it.
You know, and me and myself and Commissioner Dahliden have to try and twist county employees to sign up for the triathlon so we don't get beat by registration by the city.
Oh.
Wait a minute, how did I get roped into that one?
Well, you're actually gonna do the triathlon, I thought.
Me?
Yeah, I distinctly remember at the meeting, Mark saying, I will for surely sign up and do it.
I don't recall them having a tricycle ride.
I think you should, Mark.
I thought it was the Jumping to Conclusions Committee.
Well, that one, yeah, hands down, I got it. All right.
Also, last item, I met with Dr. Lee from Central Minnesota Mental Health, just to have some ongoing discussions. He's just working on just kind of easing some of my concerns. Kind of found out between the 4 counties, if all 4 counties stopped using Central Minnesota Mental Health, their revenue only makes up about 10 to 15% of the total revenue for Central Minnesota Mental Health. That includes the subsidies.
Really?
Yeah, I was kind of surprised at that too. Dr. Lee was even surprised when he sat down and he's like, wow.
I didn't realize that.
They didn't realize that really that the counties, what they contract from them and what we put in with subsidies makes up 10 to 15%. Which is interesting though, because if you go back in time 5 years ago, that number was dramatically different though. So
we used to, we probably paid 10 times what we are paying now.
Yeah, that's what that's what Dr. Lee said 5-6 years ago.
Yep.
It was just a totally different animal to where it is now.
Now, do you think that'll change if people lose health insurance?
Well, and that's one discussion that we were having, that we kind of want to kind of watch how this plays out, because with the Trump Care, how that looks and what the funding will look like for those that use government-assisted health care, how that's going to look is going to play a big part into how the funding is going to look for Central Minnesota Mental Health, too.
Okay, anything else? Anything else, Lee?
No, sir.
Bring before the board? We are adjourned at, looks like about 10:40.